like to call Lake Forest City Council's meeting September 17, 2013 to order. Roll call. I'd like the record show that all are present. Closed session. There was no closed session. There's nothing to report. And invocation tonight will be led by Councilman Adam Nick.
Good evening, all. I do not have a script. In fact, I was just working on it. I wanted to speak totally from the heart. That said, may we all realize that despite our natural divisions and philosophical differences, we are first and foremost American. We salute to the same flag. We abide by the same Constitution. We certainly have more in common than we don't. Americans, and I can tell you this from experience, are the most hearted, most genuine, most loving, most forgiving people on earth. And I've been to close to 30 countries. I have lived in a few of them, although this has been home for 30 plus years. I have been away a couple of years at a time at times. You, Americans, and I have that honor too, to be one. Americans are the best people. I truly, truly wish you all, your loved ones, all of you, the best life has to offer today, tomorrow, to the end of time. Thank you.
And with that, Pledge of Allegiance would be read by Councilman Robinson, but Council Robinson, along with myself, have agreed to announce that we have a officer in the ranks, and we'd love to have Lieutenant Colonel Jan Durham come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir. You know, it was this day, over 226 years ago, that United States, 39 brave men came forth to sign the Constitution of the United States, forever changing the outcome of this nation and this world. So because of that, and because of the service of people like you, Lieutenant Colonel, we have a free nation. So thank you for serving our nation, and we'd be honored to have you lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, sir. And with that, that brings us to presentations.
Move the presentation. Second.
Agenda Item 1, Proclamation declaring October 6th through the 12th, 2013 as Fire Prevention Week, submitted by the City Clerk.
This proclamation by the City of Lake Forest and the City Council of the City of Lake Forest proclaiming the week of October 6th through 12th, 2013 as Fire Prevention Week. The City Council of Lake Forest does hereby proclaim October 6th through 12th, 2013 as Fire Prevention Week throughout the city, encouraging all residents to do public safety measures and support the public safety activities and efforts of the Orange County Fire Authority's Fire Emergency Services. Signed by all of us as council members.
Thank you, Mayor. Honorable council members, on behalf of the Orange County Fire Authority, I'd like to thank the City of Lake Forest for partnering with the Orange County Fire Authority in recognizing Fire Prevention Week. The Orange County Fire Authority works hard through risk mitigation, through a partnership with our cities, specifically Lake Forest and the community at large, to decrease the risk of fires in the community, thereby saving lives and property. So thank you very much on behalf of the OCFA.
We're very honored and blessed to have you serving us as the City of Lake Forest. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Agenda item 2, proclamation declaring the week of September 17th through the 23rd, 2013 as Constitution Week, submitted by the City Clerk.
And with that, the Lake Forest City Council hereby recognizes the week of September 17th through 23rd, 2013 as Constitution Week. The Constitution Day commemorates the formal signing of the U.S. Constitution by 39 brave men on September 17th, 1787, recognizing all who are United States citizens. In 2013, we celebrate the 226th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution, hereby signed by all us as council members here in Lake Forest.
And I believe there's a representative from the Daughters of the American Revolution. Well, we'll accept that on their behalf and get that to them. Thank you.
That brings us to the student liaison report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am Jeff Dominic, the Lake Forest City Council Student Liaison for the 2013-2014 school year. El Toro has been hard at work all summer with many different activities and projects. First off, El Toro's ASB attended OC Leadership Camp at UC Santa Barbara from August 13th to the 16th. They represented El Toro extremely well with tons of spirit as well as respect and empathy for all 51 high schools in attendance. El Toro's ASB volleyball team won third place in the tournament, only being defeated by the championship winning team. Upon their return, they dove right into preparing their earliest and first Dr. Seuss themed homecoming ever. Homecoming in Whoville will break out on September 28th, the night after the homecoming football game and the crowning of the homecoming queen. The king will be crowned during the dance at El Toro High School. Yesterday, the top 5 girls and guys were announced as this year's homecoming court. The first week of school was topped off with this year's highly anticipated Charger Mania gym dance on Friday. Immediately after our football game, fans hit the dance floor and enjoy a fun night with all their friends. This blue and gold themed dance was the cleanest in many years regarding alcohol and drugs, and ASB did a fantastic job in encouraging their fellow Chargers to stay above the influence at the dance. El Toro sports teams have been diligently working to bring home earned victories to ET. The El Toro football team has done a great job in filling the giant footprints left last year's team for them. The girls volleyball team is 11-1 after crushing their rival Tribuca Hills High School last Thursday, including some exciting cheering banters between the two sets of fans. All other fall sports, including tennis, golf, and cross country, have also made ET very proud. During teacher orientation on September 9th, El Toro High School graciously welcomed Mr. Mike Chezik as the new assistant principal of guidance. He has already fit in perfectly at El Toro, and we are looking forward to his involvement at ET. That is all for tonight. Thank you, and as always, go Chargers.
Thank you. And with that brings us to the public comment section. And at this time, members of the public may address the City Council regarding any item within the jurisdiction of the City Council. No action may be taken on items not listed on the agenda unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person and an overall time limit of 30 minutes for public comments portion of the agenda. Any person wishing to address the City Council on any matter, whether or not it appears on the agenda, is requested to complete a request to speak form available at the door. The completed form must be submitted to the City Clerk or Deborah Rose prior to the individual being heard by the City Council. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
Jane Hartley, followed by Carol Mathis.
Thank you for taking the time to hear me. I live on Village Pond Park. Our property is adjacent to it, and as I'm sure you know, we have a big problem with birds. And I know you know that because you've hired a landscape architectural firm and a water quality firm to come and help work with the community about what should be done about these birds. And one of the things that seems to be nearly unanimous in our neighborhood is that we need an ordinance that prohibits feeding the birds. We talk to people, and sometimes we're met with foul language, no pun intended, regarding not feeding the birds. So we need something with a little bit of bite. We would like to have an ordinance that is connected to a fine that prohibits feeding the birds, and we would like to have large signage stating that there is a fine if birds are fed. And then finally, we hope that there can be some form of teeth behind this ordinance in the way of citations, warnings first, and then citations, because we think a lot, and all of the residents are guilty, have been guilty in the past of feeding the birds. But we've been educated, but in order to educate the community at large, we need some help. People are maybe well-meaning, and they're trying to help the birds, but they're actually hurting them, and they're definitely hurting the property. And the firms that you've hired have been unequivocal in saying that no amount of money spent would be well spent if we cannot stop the bird feeding. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Carol Mathis, followed by Paul Mathis.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to revisit the issue of the auto center zoning change. I would just briefly like to state that some of us who live near the auto center are still scratching our heads over how the council could have approved the project, overruling the Planning Commission recommendations regarding the parking situation there. It's in a status of an illegal parking situation now, and we don't see how installing high zoning, high density residential housing there will improve the illegal parking status that currently exists. So that is a head scratcher for a lot of us. Now, some of the developers that have been developing up that way, Baldwin in particular, worked with the community. Brookfield did not, maybe in part because they know they didn't have to because of various arrangements that they made. The second point I'd like to make is that maybe some of the council people that voted in favor of this zoning change were ill-informed, because I have it on good authority that at least one of them that was elected to the council of the three that voted for it didn't even know Foothill Ranch was a part of Lake Forest when they first ran for office. And so with that, I would just like to say that I hope you enjoy your tenure on the city council, and that you have motivated many citizens on the eastern part of the city to make sure that maybe your tenure won't be as long as you hope it to be. Thank you.
Paul Mathis, followed by Jim Rosenberg.
Good evening, Mayor Voights, Mayor Pro Tem McCulloch, members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Lieutenant Colonel and the young gentleman from El Toro High School for outstanding examples of leadership. And that's the reason I'm here tonight. I showed up at the council meeting, my first council meeting for the City of Lake Forest, the second council meeting of August 2013. At that meeting, I witnessed a certain member of the council attempt to drive the agenda, his personal agenda, by working verbally on the Mayor Pro Tem, the Mayor, and then personally disclosing information that had already been properly adjudicated in a court to the people in the council. Further, that member was shouting from the dais to a gentleman in the audience, not even at the podium, not here to speak, who is actually here tonight as well. That concerns me. I'm in my 20th year living in the community of Foothill Ranch. A great concern of mine before we were annexed to Lake Forest was how we would be treated and how the city would treat Foothill Ranch, a unique community within the city. I don't agree with certain actions that have been taken and votes that have happened, but that's just business. But the conduct of the city is very important, and we looked to you five folks for the leadership, and the quality of your behavior and conduct is very important going forward. Thank you again very much for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you.
Jim Rosenberg, followed by David Herzog.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, members of staff. Jim Rosenberg from Lake Forest, citizen of Space, Time, and Dimension, and member of the Parks and Recreation Commission. The topic is Village Pond Park, and I want to thank Ms. Hartley, who was at the meeting we had this last Saturday, for taking and stealing most of my thunder, but that's appreciated. At least I'm not a wolf pack of one in that sense. The project is taking shape. There are multiple facets involved in the repair, restoration, reclamation, and foul control that needs to be done at Village Pond Park. What has come out so far, even though a lot of time has been spent under the guidance of the landscape architect, who's mainly a park designer, which is probably the least important of all of the issues, is that there's a clear path, that the residents want the pond to remain, want to have the duck population controlled, and also are looking for the much-needed water quality issue to be addressed, which is in the process and is being addressed through not only the commission, but obviously staff support, which is humongous. That's obviously number one. Number two, the addition of some people who are experts in wildlife and wildfowl control. But most important, and where we need the council's help, as Ms. Hartley said, was the issue of a ordinance as part of the education process that needs to take place, which can be facilitated without, to use her terms, which are excellent, having some teeth behind it. Not that anybody, I think, proposes in the long run having armed deputies out there writing tickets and citing people, but as long as the tiger is toothless, again, the education process is very diminishable, because the average bear will go out there and say, so what? If I want to do it and do it, there's nothing anybody can do. And even though that's not the correct attitude to have, we know people are people and people will do that. So again, it's kind of a reaching out to the council and through the process to add something to our municipal code which would create an ordinance to prohibit feeding of wild animals, call it that, or anything similar, maybe not only in Village Pond Park, but in any city facility, period. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your service to the city.
Thanks.
David Herzog, followed by Bob Holtzclaw.
Good evening. My name is David Herzog. I'm a 23-year resident of Lake Forest, and I live in Portola Hills. I usually speak without notes, but tonight I'm going to use notes. I came here tonight with a simple question that I wanted to ask Mr. Robertson, Mr. Voights, and Mr. Nick. But because of the Brown Act, I know you really can't answer my question. But I'm going to ask it anyway. So Mr. Robinson, Mr. Voights, Mr. Nick, why did you think that Jolene Fuentes was the most qualified person to be our new planning commissioner out of all the candidates who applied for the position? Would anybody like to comment?
We're not allowed to, thank you.
I know that. I ask this question not because I dislike Mrs. Fuentes. I ask it because one of the most important fundamental jobs you have as mayor and as council members is to select the best qualified person for city positions such as planning commissioner. In the last 16 months, I've come to understand how absolutely important it is to my community and my city to have knowledgeable, qualified planning commissioners. This is all predicated on a real-life experience with the Portola Center project. The previous group of commissioners became working partners with my community of Portola Hills and truly helped us create a better final development plan for the new Portola Center. We didn't get everything we wanted, but neither did the developer. And that was a fair end result. And the only reason that happened was because the integrity of the planning commissioners that were involved. Therefore, as a citizen of this city, I was insulted by your selection of Mrs. Fuentes 2 weeks ago. There were many candidates who spoke that night who had stellar qualifications for the position. Instead, 3 of you selected Mrs. Fuentes, and that was that. I would love for Mayor Voights to explain why he voted for Amanda Morell on the first ballot, but then somehow switched his vote to Mrs. Fuentes on the second ballot. When you were quoted in the patch the next day as saying, I don't know, when asked. Well, it's been 2 weeks, sir. Do you have any clear idea of what changed your vote? I would really appreciate a lucid explanation. This entire episode stinks of politics and partisan game playing. And the way some of you are playing this is just so high school. Many people I've met out in the community can see right through you guys. Can't you take your game up a notch? Don't be so apparent. We're amazing. Most of us in this room graduated from high school a long time ago. So speaking for myself, I really don't have time to waste here watching people make a mockery of our democratic process and messing up a city I love. Just so some of you can gain political brownie points with the Central Committee and move up the ladder of the Orange County GOP. Since the election, some of you feel that you have some kind of super mandate.
Yeah, we're rounding up on your time, so
Okay.
thanks.
Since the election, some of you feel that you have a super mandate. Let me remind you of the vote counts that night. Mr. Robinson, you won your seat by roughly 2,000 votes. Mr. Nick, you won by 2,500 votes. There were 5 other candidates who ran. They garnered 47% of the total vote. You guys took 42%. 1% I can't figure out where it went.
Are you nearing your end?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay, because you only got 1 more minute. Your time is actually up.
Okay. Well,
Okay,
then I'm going to show you this.
All
This
right.
is 158 petition signatures for the Foothill Ranch Auto Mall. I collected this in 12 hours myself. Nobody else helping me. We may not win this time, but
so-
people are talking and taking time to get involved. And
Okay.
that's democracy in action.
Bob Holtzclaw.
Hello, my name is Bob Holtzclaw. I've been living here in Lake Forest since 1977. I want to go back to the duck pond from the original speaker here. I was listening to the individual over there, and I did go, and I know 2 of the city council people here actually attended the meeting too. Most of the ideas that this individual had was something that was like way in advance. Gazebos, a place for weddings, a dog park, places to barbecue and whatever. But first, I think we should work on the actual things that we actually have to do over there. I jotted down a few. And first one of the residents still want that rustic look of what it was originally. And I do too. I used to take my daughter over there 25 years ago and walk around the pond. And, there occasionally be a dead duck laying in the middle of the pond and plastic bags all sucked in where the filter is at the far end. Hopefully we can keep that rustic look and nicely and clean. They also wanted the pond to be the same original size as it is right now. And I agree with them. It's a nice size for that park. Third, we need one of you tonight to make a motion. And let's put an ordinance up to stop people from feeding the ducks. a sign up there with a circle and a line through it is not really going to get the job done. It needs an ordinance there, and also the amount of fine, the feeding the ducks, and slowly the ducks will go away. I've been a member of the Zoological Society for the past 35 years, and the generation of geese and ducks and things there will probably still remain. They'll slowly filter out when they're not getting fed. It's going to take a while. I mean, these geese are not going to go that quickly. But at least when you have an ordinance and people stop feeding them, then, things will start to change. Number 4, we really need to do something with the filter. The filter never worked in that pond. Never. Because I can contest it, from years ago. It still was so bad that it just couldn't pump the water through it as efficiently. And if we do get a filter, I hope someone looks far ahead, because we have turtles in the pond. And we have to do something with them if they have to drain the pond, and to fix it that way. I'd like to have the turtles remain. I think they're a good spot there for the rustic look with the the turtles on the top and everything else. And that's what the people wanted over there. Then later on, years from now, because I know how slow the city works on some of these things, then look at gazebos and places to have a wedding and barbecue pits and whatever. But we're going to start from the bottom level and then work up. I thank you.
Thank you.
We've had no further requests.
Mayor, what?
No response, Jane.
No. If I may just ask a quick question, I am wondering if I am allowed to, at this very moment, I just don't know, I am wondering if I am allowed to ask for consensus so we can have the city attorney come back to us at a future time with the draft of an ordinance prohibiting feeding the...
Do we want to wait till the end of the meeting, or can we...
Can I do that now, sir?
That motion's in order any time, Mayor.
Okay, then we would like to, and I'll second his motion
Thank
and
you.
bring that forth, and we will take care of that duck feeding problem over there. It's not good for the ducks, it's not good for the water quality because of the yeast buildup in there, so thank you for bringing that to our attention, and we will bring that forth at a future agenda. So, all in favor? I think we're all...
Thank you, Mayor.
Excuse me. One of the things that was asked, Dwight and I have been at both the meetings, one of the things that was asked, that all the people that are feeding the duck are not the other citizens, they're also the people that live in association, and we asked, suggested to them that we could look at putting in a city ordinance according to what the guidelines of our attorney, and making sure that we have the proper enforcement teeth in it, but we asked that the association, that they do it first, because they can move a lot faster, and we have to look at it and research and make sure the city is safe. So when we're doing that and it's brought back to us, make sure those components are in it. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that input. With that brings us to the warrant registry. All matters listed on the consent calendar warrant registry are considered routine and will be acted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the City Council, the public, or staff requests specific items to be removed from the consent warrant registry calendar for separate action. Madam Clerk, have we had any requests?
We've had no requests.
Council?
Move approval.
Second, fourth.
All in favor?
Aye.
And with that, it brings us to the consent calendar. All listed items under the consent calendar considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the City Council, the public, the staff requests specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Madam Clerk, have we had any requests to pull?
We've had no requests.
So moved.
I'll pull number 7.
I make a motion that we approve the rest. Balance? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Agenda Item 7, award of contract for seasonal lighting display, submitted by the Director of Community Services and removed from the consent calendar by Councilmember Herzog.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. I don't have any problem with the seasonal lighting aspects. I will not be supportive of the permanent lighting. We've already invested an extensive amount of taxpayer dollars on El Toro Road in that area and the Arbor area. And really, if we're going to start making permanent changes of some kind, it really should be in other areas that still need some work and improvements. So, again, I'll be voting no on the motion, but solely based on the aspects of the permanent lighting.
Move approval of the item.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And when that brings us to discussion action items.
Agenda item 12, adoption of the 1st Law Enforcement Battalion, United States Marine Corps, Camp Pendleton, submitted by Director of Community Services.
Mr. Members of the City Council, this item was placed on your agenda at your request. The staff has done so. We have nothing further to contribute this evening, but certainly it's up to the council as to your action.
Well, I think that with the tradition of Lake Forest, formerly being El Toro, and really the home namesake of the part of the county that actually represented the United States Marine Corps Air Station El Toro, I think it would be a great honor for us as a city to lend our support as a community to the 1st Law Enforcement Battalion, United States Marine Corps, Camp Pendleton. And I think with that, I think that Lieutenant Colonel is here, so if we can have public comments.
Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to address you very briefly, and I will be brief. I don't want to pre-guess the vote, but would like to express our gratitude that if it is adopted and approved, the appreciation for this very important measure of support from the Marine sailors and families of our battalion. We look forward to the possibilities that this mutually beneficial relationship would afford both sides, and to working with private citizens, the yet-to-be-formed adoption committee, and city officials to make those possibilities a reality. I would like to acknowledge the help of several gentlemen in attendance with us tonight, Lake Forest residents, Mr. Kevin Donahoe and Rocky Hewitt, as well as Mr. Tim Sloat, who's not a Lake Forest resident, but has been an effective matchmaker between us and you, and want to thank them for their assistance and you for your time and your consideration. Thank you.
Could you tell us a little bit about your law enforcement battalion and how where you've been in the last 8 to 10 years? I mean, service, because I know the Marine Corps has been stretched thin and been overseas. And where have you guys as your battalion?
Yes, sir. Well,
how many men do you have in your battalion?
Well, it's a battalion of 650 Marines, male and female. It's one of the Marine Corps' newest units. We activated last summer, so we are still babies in the sense of comparison to the other more storied units on Camp Pendleton. But we've been very active in support of our nation's defense. Before we activated, and up till this time, we've had Marines deployed to Afghanistan, Yemen, other hotspots in the world doing security missions. We have Marines who are training this week in Brazil with partners down there. We have other tasks that will take us into other parts of the world in the coming future as well. So we've been busy, and for good or bad, it looks like we will remain busy for the foreseeable future.
Council, we have any questions? I'd like to make a motion that we accept this.
I second that.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
I think that we will be very proud to be partners with you in supporting your family and your loved ones as you serve us and protect us. And so in the tradition of the Marine Corps, I'm sure that you'll make us proud as being an infant in the Marine Corps, but not an infant in what you believe and what you stand for. So thank you, sir, for helping us have a free nation. So we look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Thank you, City Council. And if you can indulge me one more moment, sir, I've got something that we want to present to you and on behalf of our members. So if you want me to come up here, sir, or you come down here. So this is the unit seal, okay, and it says Marine sailors and families of 1st Law Enforcement Battalion, 1st Marine Expeditionary Headquarters Group, 1st Marine Expeditionary Force express their sincere appreciation to the citizens of Lake Forest for their magnanimous support in adopting our unit on September 17, 2013. Thank you. Senator Fidelis.
On behalf of the Sea Lake Forest, we're very proud to see that, and I know that we're making proud
Agenda item 13, legislative and regulatory matters, submitted by City Manager.
Mr. Members of the Council, the staff's provided you an update as it relates to legislative issues. We have nothing further to add at this juncture.
Receive and file. That brings us to the City Manager's report.
And I have nothing further this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Council?
A couple of the comments from the public were very interesting today, and I have to confess it's truly been a very interesting 9 months here in Lake Forest, and unfortunately, I think it's been a 9 months that have not gone too well. For a couple of reasons. First is cronyism. The dictionary defines cronyism as, and I quote, the practice of favoring one's friends, especially in political appointments. Cronyism is alive and well in Lake Forest. Secondly, when you add on to the cronyism PACs, projects, and politics, you start to develop the perfect storm that shows why 2 weeks ago I indicated that what occurred was a tragedy. And that is because of what has been going on. And it's been going on, as I said, for 9 months. And in fact, it started 25 minutes after the December 4th swearing in. And it's continued nonstop ever since then. So what occurred last meeting was just the icing on the cake of something that has become very ingrained now in Lake Forest, and I fear will continue. And there's a whole host of examples that can be given, but I'll just highlight a couple to keep this somewhat brief. In January of 2013, we had a very highly qualified, competent, and respected planning commission. On that evening, 2 of those members were dismissed. And in place, one of the individuals that was put in had completely misrepresented his background as well as his relationships to 2 of the council members. And at least on the issue of the cronyism, he was very specific. In fact, while sitting in the back room, waiting to be interviewed, he put up on his Facebook page, in fact, that he's sitting in the Lake Forest Council meeting room, and he says, quote, I count 3 of the 5 council members amongst my friends, end quote. And surprise, surprise, those 3 council members voted for him in the first round, and he was on the planning commission. Then, of course, there's been the whole issue with Brookfield and Truemark. And we won't go through that whole thing. It was kind of a long story. But I think one of the most telling things is that we had a situation where the staff had indicated that it was very important that certain matters be studied and be studied about the project. And one of those aspects was a question that many people had been asking. And that was specifically, what would be the impact, or what will be the impact of the 4,000 plus homes that are already improved on the business community in that area? And staff was very specific that they did not have that information. And in fact, in mid-2011, or 2012, that study was approved, with Mr. Voigt supporting it at that time. Then in the interim, we had the $80,000 in an election, and then in February of 2013, that study was canceled. And supposedly, we were going to, what was said from the dais was that, and was mentioned by the two developers, was that they would provide additional information, which we didn't get. But basically what happened then, on one of the critical issues that the Planning Commission was looking at and that the City Council was looking at, and that is the impact of what we have already done in the city and how are we going to be absorbing that, the ability to analyze that fully in relationship to these projects was taken away from us. So we basically flew in blind. And it's very interesting because the developers and the 3 council members that approved it were always saying, well, we need these houses to help those businesses in that area. Well, that's exactly what the study was supposed to look at. So on one hand, they say, well, no, don't let us really examine it, but we say it's going to be good to have these houses there. It's just incongruous. I mean, it makes no sense. I just cannot follow it in any way, shape, or form. And then that does bring us to the recent Planning Commission appointments. And it was pointed out earlier by one of the speakers that Mr. Voigt voted for Miranda Morell in the first round, and she was definitely qualified. I think everybody agreed with that. And yet, then there was this change in vote, and his response was, I don't know why I did it, as was pointed out by the speaker. To me, there is no way anyone can vote for someone if you don't know why. Particularly for the Planning Commission, it is absolutely critical. That is a critical position, as was pointed out by Mr. Herzog, in how this city moves forward and what kind of community we're going to have, what kind of quality of life we're going to have, and whether this city truly functions effectively. And to not know why you appoint someone to a Planning Commission is just inconceivable to me. You should know why you make a vote, particularly on the Planning Commission. And then I think one thing that was also very disconcerting, and I think actually maybe more problematic and kind of reflects what's been going on over these past 9 months, was a comment by Mr. Nick when he was asked to explain his votes. And he says, quote, I want commission members who are an extension of me. That's not what the Planning Commission is supposed to be. The Planning Commission is supposed to be an extension of the people, the taxpayers, the residents of Lake Forest. The City Council should be too, by the way. But certainly that's what the Planning Commission should be. And as was pointed out by one of the speakers, what our job is not to create some extension of us, but to find the best qualified people who can go through the complexities that come into projects and plans that come before the city to make the best decision based upon for the people of Lake Forest, not for the City Council. The Planning Commission should solely focus on the people of Lake Forest and what makes this a great community. Nothing else. They certainly should not be an expression of any one council member. And this actually, and this is a little more esoteric, but it goes to the fundamental basis of what this community is, and particularly what this city is. We are what's called a full contract city. And what that means is we contract out for a vast majority of services in the city. So we are very reliant on outside bidding coming in that's solid, fundamental, provides good services at a good price. It's really the foundation of the city, and the City Council has discretion on many of those contracts. Well, once the word gets out that you have the cronyism and the politics, the people who have to go through the RFP process know that. And what they do is they look at it and say, well, you can already tell who's going to get it. We're not going to apply. We're not going to fill out the RFP. So basically what then happens is instead of having a free market answer, a public-private partnership, a real competitive process, is you've taken that away. You no longer have a free market. You no longer have competition. You just have people who have friends. That hurts the community because you don't get the best services at the best prices. It's just a known fact. And additionally, another impact is on the volunteers. When the volunteers start to feel that it all depends on who you know, they check out. And this community was founded on volunteers, on the community The 4th of July parade was created by the community. The whole fight for the airport was based upon the community, and on and on and on. And I find it very unfortunate that what's going on through this cronyism in politics is that now that potentially could very well erode very quickly. And that's truly unfortunate. So,
your time is up. Can we just, we'll let you finish, but she's going to leave, so she makes a real quick thing. Your 5 minutes is up.
I know, I was just going to say, in conclusion.
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't mean to
That's all
interrupt.
right.
I'm letting you go.
In
Your
conclusion.
minutes have been up.
In conclusion, it really is time for the people of Lake Forest to rise up and take back your city. I think it's necessary, and I think it's starting to happen. You heard some of the speakers reference it, and it needs to spread and take hold. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, we're going to, Adam Nick is giving you permission.
I just want to declare my AB 1234. I attended the ACCOC. Shop and dine on both ends of the cities were very successful. I hope we can repeat it next time with even more. Southern California Associate of Government, I attended. Mental health, boy, we need some mental health tonight. Mental health, I attended. We have some good things going on. If the mayor would allow me, I will add the rest of them to my list next time if I can have a few extra minutes. For the only thing I'd like to say, I'm sorry, but I'm running to catch a plane and for our annual conference. The only thing I'd like to say, if there's anyone out there that are praying people, please pray for our city and pray for discernment, and that people use the wisdom of whomever they believe in greater than themselves, rather than using their flesh to make decisions, because it is not easy up here, but it will be easier if we take and get outside of ourselves and use the power that is within. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, and have a good fight. Have a good fight. You know, we don't need the public clapping, so thank you, guys.
I need to.
Okay, go ahead. You know, that's uncalled for at the city council, so if you want to be rude, don't come to the city council, otherwise we'll ask you to leave, and if you don't want to leave, we'll ask the deputy to leave you. Bob, can we have... We will do that, so... Ms. Kathy, go ahead. All right. Councilman Nick.
Thank you. I wasn't going to speak tonight, hoping we could all go home, but since Mr. Herzog invoked my name, this is just a philosophical difference that I have with Mr. Herzog. A planning commissioner needs to be an extension of me, just like it was printed in the Orange County Register. That is what I said. Don't be mistaken, a planning commissioner does not need to know urban development, does not need to be an architect. A planning commissioner needs to have a good mind to be a good judge, an objective, impartial judge. These people are the ones who have the experience. For example, all I do at the council, I review what they give me. I have 30 or so years experience in urban development. I have 20 plus years experience in public works, almost 30 years experience in finance. Again, community services, 30 plus years. I have 40 years experience in public policy and public service in the city manager. I have 30 plus years law practice and law experience in the city attorney. I don't know law. I do not know urban development. That is not my job. My job is to recruit the right individuals for the task given. There is no one on earth who knows it all. I am a financial guy. At best, I can do Keith's job, at best, and not really that, because I'm not a governmental accountant. I worked for Wall Street, and governmental accounting and non-governmental accounting are two different beasts. So at best, I can be his assistant. That's at best. I don't know any of these jobs. People put me here to be a good judge of character, to be a good judge of qualifications. I need the planning commissioner to be an extension of me. I believe in free market. I believe in less regulations by the government. I believe in lower taxes. Somebody who sees things my way will be on the planning commission. Again, the actual planning is not done by the planning commission. That's actually the wrong term to use for that commission. The actual planning is by the staff. It's by the city manager and his staff. We are just good judges. I hope that we're good judges of character and talent when we see it. No, that's that. As far as my choice for Mrs. Fuentes, I had a lengthy conversation with the Orange County Register reporter the next day, probably 45 minutes or so. I'm one of the only ones here who explains himself. I have gone out of my way, and it is my duty, no doubt, to explain myself. I am available. You need me, just Google Adam Nick. I'm the first one who comes up. I'm the first link. My phone number is on there. As far as the Planning Commission, as I said, from this very chair, from this very dais, the most qualified individual, and I said this, watch the tape, the most qualified individual was Mr. Dave Carter. Again, as I said, from this very chair, the second most qualified individual was Mr. Anderson, Terry Anderson. The third most qualified individual was Mrs. Amanda Morale. David Carter, very nice man. I enjoy speaking with him very, very much. He and I do not see eye to eye. A couple of years ago, Sizzler wanted to put up the U.S. flag, a painting of the U.S. flag on its on the overhead at the front entrance. Mr. Carter was one of the ones on the Planning Commission who said no, along with Mr. Anderson. To me, it's your business, it's your property, and it is U.S. flag, for God's sake. It's not the Russian flag. And you're going to put a professionally designed, professionally put together flag up there. There is absolutely no problem with that. I encourage that, actually. Again, another decision. There was this mechanic shop off of El Toro Road who was experiencing vandalism. He went before the Planning Commission to put up some railings. And these are hard facts. You can check it out if you don't believe me. He went before the Planning Commission a year or two ago to put up railings to prevent those who were vandalizing his automobiles, his property, and so forth. Mr. Carter, Mr. Anderson said no. So to me, being an American is about a lot of things. One of the things that we enjoy here is property rights. It is your property, and if you wanna, and if the police fails to protect you, if all measures prove to no avail, and you wouldn't put up guards so that people don't vandalize other people's automobiles when they are left at your garage for service, it should be your prerogative. They said no to that. And so the fellow comes to the council, just like the Sizzler issue, the council votes yes. The other thing, both of those gentlemen, and I'm fond of them, no doubt, they just don't see eye to eye with me, both of them voted to allow yet another alcohol establishment, singular, above and beyond the state-mandated quota. I am absolutely against that. Not because I lost a loved one on November 17, 1986. I am against anything that goes against the direction of the state of California. I believe in the California Constitution. I believe in the U.S. Constitution. I believe in the hierarchy. If the state of California says that if the state of California says that it is going to look at the population per tract, that information comes from the U.S. Census Bureau, a federal agency. The state says per this information that has come from the federal government, I would say 2,500 residents qualify for one alcohol retailer, which is the law. Now, above and beyond that is above and beyond the state's law. I need somebody who respects state law. That's as far as those two gentlemen. As far as Mrs. Morale, absolutely the third qualified individual, no doubt. She went against what at the forum I said this. I said this when I campaigned. You may not like me. You may think I'm shouting. I don't shout. It's just my voice is loud, in part because I'm passionate. I give everything my heart, 110% of my heart. I said during the campaign, the other people who were running, actually, they tried to dance around the issue. I didn't dance. I was asked time and time again, what do you think about a stadium around, a full-size stadium around the El Toro High School? I was categorically against it. And I didn't dance around the issue. Because to me, my first responsibility, my first and foremost responsibility is to secure your quiet joy when you're in your home. That stadium, those lights, that traffic, the trash, the noise, it would have definitely altered the life of those who lived around this high school, who lived around the stadium. So I was categorically against it. Now, Mrs. Morale, with all the respect to her, was a proponent of this and actually campaigned for it. I received 20-plus emails saying that she campaigned for it, and I knew for a fact she campaigned for it. Again, I cannot have somebody there who does not have my vision. I did not want, and I do not want, a stadium around that neighborhood. When those people bought those houses 20-plus, 30-plus years ago, I apologize, just one more moment. But I'm going to finish it. They were effectively guaranteed the lifestyle will not change for the worse. I saw to it that it did not. As far as the other candidates, it's just a process of elimination. One of them was a developer. Again, he was very, very qualified. I think he was a Footy Ranch resident. But I am not going to put a developer on the planning commission. What is the expression? And I don't mean to be disrespectful to him. God knows I don't mean to be disrespectful. But we say, again, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but we have a saying, fox guarding the hen house. I am not going to put a developer on the planning commission who can have other enough said about that. Others were not terribly qualified. That said, I'm gonna finish this. I truly, in my heart, I'm not saying it was the right decision. There is no right or wrong necessarily. In my heart, I look at each of you in the eye, and I tell you, I truly believed and do believe Joan Fuentes was the best option given the circumstances. My time is up. And I just want to say that I am very, very accessible. Those gentlemen said something to me and they left. If they hear me, I'm a phone call away. If you give me the time, I'll explain myself, everything I have said, every stance I have taken. I am very, very accessible. I actually had a disagreement with Mr. Tim Morissette last week, 2 weeks ago. He was in the audience, and I wasn't yelling, I wasn't shouting. I reached out to him. We had a disagreement. The following morning, he's right there. You can ask him. I tracked him down. I said, hey, it's Adam Nick. Let you and I finish what we started last night.
Thank you.
I am very accessible to you. I apologize. Many words.
Okay. I'd like to disclose that I, too, went to the ACCOC meeting on realignment. It actually informed us of the rising crime rate that we have in the County of Orange and throughout the state of California because of the forced realignment and forcing the counties to take more prisoners. With that, I would like to say that the Lake Forest Chamber and our city staff did a marvelous job with Shop and Dine Lake Forest. Oh, I'm sorry. He said nothing. Okay. Lake Forest actually had a great turnout for Shop and Dine Lake Forest, and thank you for that. But he had already said no. And so we actually had a great turnout. The Lake Forest weather once again was scorching, but the fact is that we had well over 1,000 people at Foothill Ranch trying over 33 of our restaurants from Lake Forest, and it was a great turnout. It was great restaurants, and Peppino's became the #1 restaurant in Lake Forest. Congratulations to Joe Moscatello and Peppino's, who actually has 2 restaurants in Lake Forest and actually is a resident of Lake Forest. So our hats off to Joey for serving great food in Lake Forest. And with that, I'd like to announce that the Lake Forest operating budget, the fiscal year 2013-2014 was out, and the City of Lake Forest is financially sound. Revenue is at $35,882, and our expenditures are $35 million even. So we have a net revenue for greater expenses of $881,000 for the City of Lake Forest. And so with that, I'd like to close this meeting.